This is an intro. Who needs an intro? I don't need an intro. This is just a vape show. It's just a vape show. Vape show. This is an intro. Who needs an intro? I don't need an intro. This is just a vape show. It's just a vape show. Vape show.
YouTube, what is up? I'm your homeboy Josh, back at you, and today we're taking a look at the Lynx RDA from Vape. No, it's their sister company, DigiFlavor is who it is. DigiFlavor. And this device is kind of like this big surprise. The biggest surprise that I've had in a very, very long time. I had this pair of alien coils because Mr. Rambo, co-creator of Coil Wars, decided to put out an alien coil challenge, and I botched the whole fucking thing and ended up doing my first attempt ended up being Mohawk coils, which wasn't right. And the second one, the aliens just came out like crap, and that's what I ended up putting in here. I had these crap aliens that came out like shit, and I just needed to throw them in something. So I looked through my box of all my different stuff, and I was like, what can I put these in? So I just grabbed this and I'm like, okay, it's going to be a velocity style deck, and it's going to be, because I hadn't seen any of the reviews. I hadn't watched them. I was just kind of putting this thing off, and I was going to get to it eventually. So I figured, all right, you know what? I'll just pull it out. It's going to be a velocity style something or other, and it's going to, not going to be anything crazy. I was way off. So this device is actually really, really, really interesting. There are some things about it that I don't like, but at the same time, it's like it's kind of cool. It's kind of weird the way that they put this thing together. The thing that I love most about it, of course, is that it is bottom airflow that doesn't leak. It can't leak because the airflow comes in the side and then travels down this space between the top cap and the deck, and then shoots into the airflow holes down here and back up. So even if you ended up getting juice in these two little, tubes on the deck, and they went down through those tubes and we're gonna go out the side and the bottom, they can't, because they'd have to come back up through here and out. And that kind of pressure, you're just not going to get it in this device. It's not going to leak. It can't leak. That's cool. It really reminds me of the Omerta in that way. That one, me and the Omerta, we go way back. I put out, one or two videos on the Omerta, I want to say, and it was a really interesting device because it had bottom airflow and it had side airflow, not at the same time. You could use them both individually, and it had that kind of system where airflow came in the side and traveled down to the airflow at the bottom and came back up. I thought it was awesome. I love that system. And the Omerta came out a couple of years ago. No one's tried this since then. So that alone makes this thing freaking awesome. The other thing about it is that it has a velocity style airflow adjustment. So you're spinning this down, opening this up like you did with a velocity. That's really cool too. That's a really underutilized system if you ask me. I think that was a really interesting way of doing things. And it has a locking mechanism on the deck between the top cap and the deck. So there's sort of like a key sort of system here. So it only goes down one way and then it locks in place. So you can turn this and spin this without it worrying about it unscrewing the addy or becoming detached in any way. Another cool thing about it is the airflow. When you open it up wide enough, it's a super wide side airflow system. And I actually like it from time to time because it's side airflow and bottom airflow at the same time. Not like the Omerta. The Omerta, you could use one and then the other. It was more of a flavor chasing addy, the Omerta. It didn't have the widest of airflow holes. This does. This has really wide airflow holes. So you can chuck some serious clouds with this thing too when you want to. Yeah, it's got some massive, massive airflow. Those Cyclops airflow holes in the side, they've got to be something like 1.5 millimeters by 2 centimeters. I mean, it's big. It's a lot of airflow, man. It's a lot of airflow. More airflow than most people would ever need. But believe it or not, the flavor is actually still pretty good. And it doesn't have a conical top cap or anything like that. In fact, it has that thing that the Pharaoh did where the drip tip kind of comes down into the top cap. Like that. It's kind of odd. It's a weird system. And it's made to prevent leaking, so if you ended up turning this thing on its side, it would collect in that little cup and then come back. That's what it's for. I haven't really had any issues with leaking on this. I don't know if that's why, but I wonder if this system that DigiFlavor has envisioned for being a leak preventative measure, where the drip tip comes down and creates a sort of catch cup, actually does something to contribute to flavor in some way, honestly. Maybe it's creating some kind of turbulence in the air or something. I don't know, but it works. Whatever they're doing with that sort of system, it works. It worked on the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh had great flavor. It worked on this device. It has great flavor. Now the metal's a little thin in some places and the edges feel a little bit sharp. Kind of wish that they were a little bit more rounded. It was a little more clean. There's some places on the deck where the metal's really thin. That's where, I kind of don't like it and I kind of do like it. Because what happens with that thin metal on the deck, there's so much space. This deck has so much space, It's a big, big deck. Like I want to say this is a 25 millimeter RDA, 24 or 25. I think it's just 24. Even at 24, I mean, the deck itself is 22 millimeters. Pretty much exactly 22 millimeters on the deck. The O-rings protrude past the 22 millimeters. I mean, it uses every bit of that 22 millimeter deck space. It goes right up to the edge. I've got dual alien coils in here, and there's plenty of room. I could put a lot more in here. If I wanted to, I could probably put quad alien coils in here. I would never, but I probably could if I wanted to. The deck itself is kind of like this improved Shuriken style deck. They've got some nice thick looking clamps on it, and they create this kind of, you know, roof and slope at the top of the device. It's really, really cool looking with these clamps. I really dig it. And they're also spring loaded, and the spring is discreet, which I like too. The spring is not exposed anywhere. I'm looking for it in there while I'm, you know, opening up the screw, and the spring is picking up those clamps, and they lift them really high. I mean, that is a big spring in there. It's a really lot of space where you can build, but the spring is discreet, and I like that I can't see it. DigiFlavor does that really, really, really well. A lot of the manufacturers out there that have incorporated springs into their designs for their clamping systems, I really like the springs, but I prefer when they're discreet, where you can't see the springs. That is my personal preference. Just because I feel like the spring kind of, you know, it's almost like magic when you can't see the springs. And then when you see them, it just kind of looks kind of janky, you know? It just looks like it was, you know, it wasn't thought out all the way. You know what I mean? DigiFlavor does the spring-loaded systems really, really well. And this is no exception. With all that space on the deck, you can drip straight into this thing. And again, you're not have to worry about juice getting into those air tubes on the bottom of the deck, because there's so much space dripping down through that top cap. You're in no risk of interrupting those barrels for airflow in any way. So I'm kind of torn with, you know, the thinness of the metal in some places versus the amount of space that it's given to this device. And the clamps too, the clamps are kind of narrow, so there's lots of space underneath the clamps and between the clamps, the posts that hold the clamps for cotton, for juice. I mean, this is a deep, deep well too. This has to be something like a, I don't know, 12 millimeter well, something like that. It's really deep, man. It's really big. I gotta say, this device was a huge, huge shock to me. I wasn't expecting this out of this device. I mean, you look at this, it just looks like a generic RDA. But inside it's got, you know, a lot of inventive and intuitive and interesting things going on. This has been, you know, that surprise Addy that I really, really like it. I really, really like it, to be honest with you. I'm surprised that I do, just because it looks so simple. But there's a lot going on under the hood on this one, man. Excellent flavor. Great build space, great airflow options. The machining everywhere is very clean. The deck, everything there is really, really nice. The threads on the velocity style airflow, I mean, they go up and up and up and up and up, but they screw up completely. And getting them back together, I don't feel like they're going to strip at all. You know, they do have, they're not buttery, but you know, they feel like they're going to hold up really well, you know? I don't have any question about those threads. I don't question them in any way. And I vape it at 170 watts and it never gets warm, ever. Anyway, guys, that is the Lynx from DigiFlavor, the surprise RDA. If you're looking for something that's going to really surprise you, check it out. Anyway, guys, till next time, I'm your homeboy Josh. Vape on, Vapers.